Mike Craven dropped the Dave Campbell's Guide to Texas College Football, but he also dropped the All-Texas team on Monday on our website. And since Mike Craven's on his honeymoon right now, we're here to debate that All-Texas College team. And he's not going to listen to this. We can give our real thoughts and opinions on this team. So
this podcast is going to pop up on his phone. And he's going to be like, Tepper, skip. So we can speak freely is what I'm saying.
Him and his new wife are going to be out to dinner, and he's going to see that All-Texas College team job. He's like, honey, I got to leave. I'm sorry. I got to go back to the hotel room and give this a listen.
Honey, I'm going to need 42 minutes.
They're saying that Josh Kelly should not have been first-team wide receiver. I can't sit here and eat these macaroons.
I got to expose these fools. Put the pina colada away. Exactly. Okay, so where do you want to start with the All-Texas College team? Because there's a lot to dive into. But it's always, I think it's a tough job for Craven, and I know he takes it into account a lot of different opinions on the Dave Campbell staff, but it's a tough job. I'm interested, where do you want to start with the All-Texas College?
So I just want to do a quick observation from everyone around the room. So like when we look at the All-Texas College team, we're preparing for this, what was something that stuck out to you?
Yeah, Mallory, you want to go first, or I can?
I mean, I think my opinion of it is we kind of all talked about it too, and you and I especially when I was talking to you about something that I disagreed with on the list, but I think that it's kind of a weaker year for the wide receivers. I don't know what y'all think about that, but I think...
Yeah, so the first team wide receivers are Joey Hobart from Texas State, Josh Kelly from Texas Tech, and then Isaiah Bond from Texas. You can lump in R.J. Maryland from SMU if it was going just pass catchers, right? And then the second team, Savion Williams from TCU, Noah Thomas from A&M, and then Noah Smith from Sam Houston, added Drake Dabney from TCU at the tight end spot. I could get on board with that. It feels like a little bit of a thinner year at the receiver spot, fewer known commodities.
I mean, I'll piggyback off that one too, because mine was that it's a weaker year for quarterbacks, but I think a lot of that has to go with they're good players. They're just relatively unproven right now because a lot of them, the wide receivers at least, are transfers like Josh Kelly, Isaiah Bond. Texas college football fans aren't as familiar with them. When I look at the quarterbacks in the state, it has the potential to be very good. Like Daquan Finn at Baylor was the MAC MVP, and then Jordan McLeod at Texas State was the Sun Belt Player of the Year. We just don't know them as much. And then Connor Wegman is on the cover of our magazine. And we think he's going to be really good, but he's been hurt all the time. So a lot of it hinges on how those guys perform.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of upside. You know what I mean? There's a lot of upside there. But as far as known commodities, guys that we know are going to be fantastic, we don't really know. I mean, I'd even add in a guy like Baron Morton at Texas Tech, or some of these other guys who are stepping into key roles. That really, who are the known commodities right now that we know are pretty darn good, right? That we have
in terms of quarterbacks.
Yes, as far as quarterbacks, it's Quinn Ewers, right? Yes. Preston Stone.
I think Connor Wigman's good.
I mean, but that's the thing. It's like we have a small sample size, right? We don't necessarily know exactly where that is. Again, a lot of guys that we have a pretty good feeling about. But as far as on the field, knowing exactly what you're getting, we just don't have a ton of those. So I think your point is well taken. I would go on the defensive side for my take, because my big opinion here is that last year I think was the year of the defensive lineman in Texas college football. You saw the defensive line really dominated, and it was really deep, great position as far as both edge and interior. This year, I think the defensive line is good, but I think what strikes me, this is a spectacular year for linebackers. I think this is the strongest linebacker core in the state of Texas that we've seen in quite some time. You talk about guys like Taurean, York, Anthony Hill, Ben Roberts, who are all fantastic. And then you go down to the second team, which is Ahmad Walker at SMU, who I think is a super duper duper star. Matt Jones at Baylor, who if he were on a team that didn't go 3-9, I think people would really be talking about him in bigger fashion. And then Nnamdi Obiazor, I think it is, at TCU. He's been fantastic
one of my
as
favorites.
Well. Exactly right. This is a really deep. There are 2 or 3 other really good tight linebackers who were not on this list simply because there's no room for them. I think that the linebacker depth in the state of Texas right now is very strong, which is strange because I think that when you take a look at the way, especially in the recruiting ranks, as far as what Texas high schools put out, we're really good at putting out quarterbacks, really good at putting out wide receivers, really good at putting out offensive linemen. Linebackers is not necessarily something that Texas does super well. Florida puts out a lot of linebackers. California, Ohio put out a lot of linebackers. Pennsylvania, Georgia. Texas it's there, but there's not necessarily all these superstars, and yet you look up and down this list, and you've got not just great linebackers, but a lot of Texas-bred linebackers as well. And so that's what's really exciting to me is I think that when you take a look at the strength of the defensive kind of state of the state, right? I think you take one step back from the defensive line and take a look, stay on that front seven, but I think that the linebackers have really, really taken charge and become the real stars of the state this year.
So before we dive into our hot takes on the list, how should we be looking at this? And I understand I should probably be asking Craven about this, and he's not here to answer for that right now, but I've asked him a couple times before. I think it's mainly based off returning production rather than projection. And the reason I say that is because last year, Byron Murphy and T. Sweat, the Texas defensive linemen, were not on the list because at that point, they probably hadn't done anything to get on that list. So is that how you think we should be looking at this?
I think it's a little bit of art and a little bit of science, right? In that for these teams, obviously the best predictor of future success is past success. And so you take a look at the quarterback spots. The top two quarterbacks that we have in the state are Quinn Ewers and Preston Stone. That's not necessarily surprising. I do think there's a fair argument to be made that they are the two most talented quarterbacks in the state, but also they are the proven commodities. They're what we know, right? And there will be some guy on this list or who's not on this list who's going to make us look stupid. That's a guarantee, right? So
100%.
Somebody who comes out of nowhere, like, these guys, maybe some freshman burst onto the scene and has some unbelievable year. Maybe there's, or maybe one of these guys who are on the first team gets hurt and we don't necessarily get to see them kind of flourish in this 2024 season. So for me, when I look at this, I'm saying that you have to base it based on what we've already seen, what we know, and then you can add in a little bit of projection, right? I would not have been mad, for example, if they had put DeQuan Finn at the second team quarterback.
I was going to say that, yeah.
I wouldn't have been mad.
That would have gotten some people talking.
I wouldn't have been mad because as far as known commodity, we saw him do it in the MAC.
He rocked at Toledo.
Yeah, he was fantastic at Toledo. But we haven't seen him at the new team. We don't know what's there. Preston Stone coming back to a high-powered offense where he's already operated in a big way. I think that's the right choice, in my opinion, just based on the parameters of the exercise.
With all that in mind, Mallory, let's hear your hot take.
Just let him have
first?
it.
Yes.
Yes, you do.
Set the tone here.
Yeah.
Okay. And it kind of goes off of there being a weaker wide receiver class, I think, on this list. But I've been trying to figure out how to word my hot take because I don't want it to seem like because I could be persuaded either way.
You're in the trust tree here. It's okay. Just let it out.
Well, with everybody else watching, yes.
Well, don't even think about it.
I don't necessarily think that Joey Hobart from Texas State is the best receiver overall.
Wait, what?
Stop that.
No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, we talked about this bore. I can see the argument here.
I think I could be persuaded either way because he returns with a lot of production, right? He had over 900 yards, 8 touchdowns, I think, on the season last year.
I think he had 800 something.
800 yards? Okay,
yeah.
Which is, we talked about it. That's good. I think that's really good. He also had help, I think, from Ashton Hawkins, too, who's now at Baylor. But I think if you look down this list, especially at the first team, it's also kind of going back to the quarterback discussion, right? There's a lot of what-ifs, like as Isaiah Bond. He did really, really well at Alabama. He's now at Texas. He definitely deserves to be on this first team. I think he could be better than a Joey Hobart.
Okay.
I also think that the Josh Kelly from Washington State, he had a lot of production at Washington State. What is he going to look like at Texas Tech? I just don't know if Joey Hobart is the best receiver out of all of these guys.
Well,
I could be persuaded either way, but I think I would stick maybe Isaiah Bond or Josh Kelly over.
Okay.
It's difficult, and I don't know if this is what Craven even thought, but it's kind of like, are you going to put a transfer in as the best, right?
Right.
Out of all
again,
the returners.
I can totally see that, right? But it's playing like a what-if game. It's like, I don't know how these guys are going to do. Because if we're just talking sheer production from last year, it's going to be Josh Kelly.
Yeah.
But he was also at Washington State, and now it's like, I don't know.
It seems weird.
That holds.
It seems weird that a second-team All-Sun Belt player, which good accomplishment, is the best wide receiver in Texas.
Right.
What do you think, Greg?
I I think that what we're dealing with here is, again, what do you value, right? Where do you put your value? If you're looking as far as upside is concerned, yeah, I think Joey Hobart might be the guy. I think there's a chance that he may end up like, I don't know if he's going to lead the state in receiving, but like he's going to be up there. I think he has that opportunity. But as far as like, if you value like more known commodities, or you value like projection picks and stuff like that, you may look at different guys and say that's who you want at the top. For example, like there are a variety of, I think, really impact freshmen who could crack this list. And I think when they do a post, I think there will be, here's a hot take, there will be a in the postseason All Texas College, there will be a freshman on this list, like who's gonna break out, or some newcomer that we're not even thinking of that could be that guy. I think receiver is hard, especially because it did get absolutely wiped. I think Isaiah Bond is probably, if I were to pick one, I might go with Isaiah Bond. I think that and especially because of the style of offense that he's going to be in, he's going to be the true number one in that offense. But I do understand where.
I think Josh Kelly will be too, going off of that.
I think so too. I do understand where Craven's coming from as far as those are concerned. And especially, I think another thing that's worth mentioning here is that we talk about Isaiah Bond at Texas, right? Texas A&M's receiver core is basically starting over. You know what I mean? And so there's no real known true commodities there. And so as a result, that kind of muddies the waters as well, because let's be real, there's going to be some guy at A&M who like ends up being a superstar.
And I've got a name for you.
Here comes
off of that.
How about that?
I think Texas A&M wide receiver Jabari Barber should be on here on some capacity. I know he's injured right now, but at Troy, he had the highest PFF grade of any returning wide receiver in Texas. He played in the Sun Belt, I know, but he had 75 receptions, and the next closest guy to him had 43 on his team. Josh Kelly was one of 3 guys with over 60 catches. So, like, I know that Josh Kelly's stats were the same in the Pac-12, but his team also chucked the ball around a lot more. Jabari Barber was the only guy on his team at Texas A&M. And that leads me to second-team wide receiver Savion Williams at TCU. Because this is where we need to have the discussion about production versus projection. Savion Williams had like 575 yards last year, and 164 of them came versus Texas in one game. And I know that was the best team they played, but it wasn't the best secondary they played. I mean, we talk all the time about how Texas' secondary was 113th in the nation in passing defense. So I know Kendall Browse didn't get him the ball as much, and that's going to be more of an emphasis going forward. Savion Williams was a little bit questionable for me.
Okay, I'm on board with that. I think that, again, I think the receivers, because of the lack of known commodities.
There's just so many transfers.
There's so many questions at the receiver position, which is so strange, because go back to last year, and there were a ton of receivers that we were like, that dude's a dude, he's going to be that guy. Like, we knew a lot more. Now, there's just way more questions at the receiver corps. I'm going to stick on offense, if I may transition into my
There we go.
take. Okay. No qualms with having Tahj Brooks as the top running back in the state. No qualms with me. Does anybody want to argue with that? Tahj Brooks, top running back in the state?
When Tahj Brooks plays North Texas in Game 3 of the year, he's going to have 45 carries.
Okay. You're going to build the whole plane out of Tahj Brooks.
Yeah.
I would.
My issue is with the second running back on the
Mine too.
Jalen Knighton, who I like, the running back at SMU. He's going to be entering he's a fifth-year guy there at SMU. Good running back, strong running back. I think that he is not the right pick for the first team.
Who is?
Dean Connors at Rice.
Yes, exactly.
I was going to say Kavorian Barnes.
Okay, because here, I think you got 3 options. I think Craven's got it right as far as the top 4 are concerned. Tahj Brooks put him into a category of his own, right? Then you've got 3 more. Kavorian Barnes at UTSA, Dean Connors at Rice, and you've got Jalen Knighton at SMU. Here's why I like Dean Connors. 1, he was better last year. 6.6 yards per carry last year for the Owls, and I think he's going to be even better this year. That's one thing. The other thing for me is that the style of offense that Rice is going to need to run is going to be very reliant on Dean Connors, and he is going to get, I think, the vast lion's share of the carries. Jalen Knighton, very strong running back, he's going to be splitting carries, I think, 3 ways. Between him, between Kamar Wheaton, and between LJ Johnson. I think they're going to spread the wealth too much for him to get the numbies that he's going to want. So for me, I would go with it. And then Kevorian Barnes is interesting because we really don't know what UTSA is going to look like in the post-Frank Wilson era, right? Frank Harris era? Frank Wilson was the coach.
Craven does that too. It's so funny.
If I had a nickel for every time someone did that, I'd have 10 cents, which isn't a lot, but it's weird.
A lot of important Franks in UTSA history. All that's to say, we don't know what their offense is going to look like. It's going to look different, right? New quarterback. It's going to be very different. But for Kevorian Barnes, I think they're going to spread the ball around a little bit more. That's what Jeff Traylor always does. Yeah. And we know they're going to throw the ball a lot more. I think Rice is going to have to run the ball because they don't have an answer at quarterback.
Well, I think they might have an answer in E.J. Warner.
Yeah, we love E.J. Warner.
You walked into a pro E.J. Warner podcast.
Yeah,
I know why.
We're big on E.J. Warner. We were big on him at Temple last year, and we saw him at AAC Media Days, and we were like, yeah, that's a quarterback.
Okay. Mm-hmm. I think so Dean Connors, if you're asking me who is going to have the, like right now, if you look at those three guys, Barnes, Connors, and Knighton, they had about the same production last year. Now, the rate stats were better for Connors, 6.5 yards a carry versus like 4.6 for Barnes and maybe 5 for Knighton. The rate stats were better, and I also think he's going to see an increase in carries more than the other two will. That's my take. I would go with Dean Connors, but I also know it's hard to put the Rice running back ahead of the SMU running back and ahead of the UTSA running back because, frankly, I think SMU and UTSA are going to be better than Rice in 2024.
Yeah, but here's what you would say to it being harder to put them up there. Dean Connors had 1,100 scrimmage yards and 10 touchdowns to Knighton's 834 and 8 touchdowns in the same conference.
This is Dean Connors hive, right?
This is right. A Rice. All right. Rice.
Hoot.
We just gassed up a Rice player, and I'm going to gas up another Rice player who actually transferred to Texas Tech, unfortunately, for Rice Owls fans. DeBraylon Carroll, the defensive lineman, I think was a great replacement for Jalen Hutchins and Tony Bradford. Obviously, he can't do it all himself, but that was a great piece for them. I would put him at interior tackle over one of the UTSA guys. We've got 2 UTSA interior tackles. DeBraylon Carroll was the highest graded PFF returning player. As you can notice, I really consulted the PFF charts before I got up here. Brandon Brown was 280th plus. So I think DeBraylon Carroll, I saw him play at the First Responders Bowl, I believe it was, at Texas State versus Rice. He was a monster.
Well, and again, I don't disagree with you. It goes back to the projection thing of like you're talking about guys who it wouldn't be fair to say that he is leveling up in competition, right? That's a fair assessment. How well does he level up in that competition? How well does he fit in with their scheme? So I understand where Craven is coming from as far as that's concerned, but I do think that you have a point as far as the proof's in the pudding, and so far the pudding's tasted pretty darn good.
Yeah, pudding's great.
We love pudding.
Did you have any more hot takes about this list?
No, I think
we covered it all.
We've ripped Craven's stuff apart. Buy his book and buy the magazine, TexasFootball.com/subscribe. But I will say that overall, this is a tough thing to do.
Oh, extremely.
It's extremely tough, especially in the era of the transfer portal, where you have an idea on March 1 and then you have to change it all on May 1. I totally get that. There are just some tweaks that I would make, and I think we all agree that we're going to embrace debate here.
Everyone's going to have a different opinion.
Yeah, exactly right.
And guess what? No one's opinion matters more than the man in the arena, and that's Mike Craven. That's why I'm up here just nitpicking at his list while he's away. Very unfair of me to do.
Yeah, he's got an umbrella in his drink. I don't feel too bad.